Lord, grant me the serenity to understand the things I cannot change. Grant me the courage to change the things that I can. And grant me the wisdom to know the difference. Just for today. Amen. Away from me.
You close to the edge, just don't move. My brother said his lawyer just gave him some bad news. Police found the drugs that were stashed in the bathroom. Not only that, but his court date approaching us fast too. So tell me what to do. Lord, you only seek the truth. If you want to bear fruit, then he needs to abide in you. If you seek transformation, it happens in solitude. Since I never had a shot, God threw me the alley-oop. I believe I can fly. Let me mingle with the angels. Heaven's in my peripheral, I see it from an angle.
Welcome to the Bro Code Show. It's your boy, Bro Troy.
Or Kirk. Bro Smith.
And we are the Bro Code. Tonight, fellas, a special edition, man.
Yeah. I like
hold on. I gotta do it. Another one. So, real quick, man, tonight, we always base our first question with the bros, depending on who we have as a guest. Special episode, talking about service from another perspective. We're big on that. As service leaders, as community leaders, as individuals that put other people's needs before our wants. That is a unique space to be in. We get a chance to talk to one of those type of people tonight. I'm excited about it, but let's get the party started. So we're talking to a young lady, and the buzzword is healing. Vulnerability and trust is something that we say as bros that we're big on. Right? Like, we live this thing. It's not a show just called the Bro Code. Like, we live this. Mm-hmm. It's a lifestyle. So I want to hear from a vulnerability, from a transparency sense, like when you hear this word healing, you know, how does that hit to you? Like, what are some thoughts that come to your mind?
This is great, you know, because we always start over there.
I know if you need it. You switched it up on me.
Yeah.
Nah, what immediately came to mind was, you know, you hear the phrase, I know myself like the back of my hand. But then I started looking at the back of my hand. I was like, oh, man, there are all these scars and things that I don't remember how they actually got there. So, and I kind of look at it like the scars of myself. I'm learning myself more and more, especially as I get as old as you two gentlemen.
Always the young one joke, right?
And so I look at healing as, you know, you have to take care of yourself, because before you know it, you're going to have all these scars that are built up over time because you didn't put the ointment on when it mattered. You know, you thought that, you know, just put some water on it, some tussin on it, you know, that it would just heal itself. Before you know it, your body's breaking down, your scars become infected, and you took what could have been a simple injury, you know, paper cut, that turned into something where they might have to take off your finger, you know. So that's what comes to mind when I think of healing.
Good stuff. What about you, bro?
Yeah. I think on the journey to wholeness, like as a man, I want to be whole. And I think that, and I want to be present. And I think if I'm not healed, I can't be present. And so there's no perfect healing, but in the journey, I want to get better at the things that, like he said, there's some things in our past that, you know, maybe you went through, especially at a young age when you weren't able to speak up for yourself, that you don't realize is still you're dealing with. And so taking a reflection and doing the work, which is messy sometimes, but man, I want to be whole, and I want to be able to be myself and present right now versus things that may have happened, you know, years ago.
Yeah, I love that. You know, we're always open to feedback, and though I always haven't been in this place, I have several mentors, and one of my mentors says that neglected issues have babies. I'm gonna let that pause just for a moment, right? Let that sink in. But that's the space I live in when I think of healing, right? Because to your point, we all got them demons, devils in the closet, and skeletons, whatever you want to call it, man. Proclivities, right? The things that people don't see, that we don't talk about, man. And those things have a way of having babies, of building even bigger issues if we don't address them. My grandmother, and you know, we always talk about grandma, she said, what, an ounce of prevention prevents a pound of cure.
It's worth a pound of cure,
Yeah. Right? So being more proactive, so that's the space I live in healing, man. I can honestly say I always haven't been there. But in my older age, as you alluded to, and I'm appreciative of that.
Yeah.
You know, these gray hairs speak of wisdom. You know, of you know what, I may not want to do that one no more. You know, I may want to go about this one a little differently because what is it worth to you? And I can be honest, it's a mental space and capacity, it's an energy thing for me now. I don't have the energy for that. You know, so I'm willing to go a little extra to prevent that because I understand the impact that it can be long term. Not right now, right, but down the line. And we dare to be doing work that's bigger than ourselves. You know what I mean? So like we almost have to, because what's the other one we always say? We can't pour from an empty cup.
Mm-hmm. So important.
Right? So, you know, that for me, that's the space of healing, you know, acknowledgement, and then taking the proper steps to want to be better than I was the day before.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's it.
so. And we always say greatness is a collective effort. Tonight's no different. Tonight we have Windi White. I think she's around here. Windi, Windi, you around here? Windi, come on, Windi, come on, enjoy on this nice, fine white leather couch.
I'm already scared. I saw her taking notes.
I know it, right?
I was like, oh man.
Before she came on the show. Oh, we got to switch. Hold on, Windi. Hold on. Our videographer says that you get the hot seat. That's your seat right there. Hold on. We're going to switch this thing right on out. We got to there you go. Now you can get the corner seat. Awesome. Awesome, man. We can let the pumps. What is that, fuchsia?
Yeah. She's the first person that came on with the notes.
Yeah.
Is it?
Really?
Is she?
Yeah,
I mean,
notes.
with the pen and everything.
Yeah, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying it's a first.
Yeah.
On the
And not
notes.
just the notes, but the notepad. Like she was like, hold on, we got extra. Well, hey, let's get this conversation started. Wendy, how you feeling?
Good.
Feeling pretty good?
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the Bro Code Show. Welcome. Really, thank you for having us. We're at Healing Transitions, just so people know. But for those that are listening, for those that are watching, you know, we are at Healing Transitions, a place of recovery, a place that people can find hope, even when sometimes they feel hopeless. Right? Being a servant leader, and we can dig that. But we want the people to put respect on your name. So in 90 seconds or less, let the people know who you are, what you do, and why.
So I'm Windi White. I am a woman in recovery. My 90-second resume would be I went to school for natural resource management, concentrating in marine and environmental education. I was a kayak guide. Yes, I was a house flipper, which led to some custom design work, led to becoming a stylist, which then evolved into being a creative director and a director of research and design for an international rug company.
Okay.
That journey brought me to Raleigh, where I was in business development, and now I am the director of development of Healing Transitions, and that position oversees all of the fundraising efforts, PR, marketing, communications, and community engagement.
Wow. That's all right. What you think about that?
Wow, that's dope.
Yeah, that is, right? International. I'm going to get into that one, too. Yeah. I love that you own the space that you're in. Like Kurt used the word presence, and we talk about that all the time. Like really celebrating the progress, and for you to do that, you have to be present. You have to be in the moment. And you said you are a woman in recovery, meaning that you're still in that process, and every day is a new day for you to be a better person. So I love that. So I have to turn this same question on you, man. When you hear the word healing, you know, what are the thoughts? What are the comments and the words that come to mind?
For me, healing is growth. I mean, you could look at it from the practical side of you have a wound and, you know, you're going to regenerate and regrow. A bone breaks, it's going to regenerate and grow. For me, healing is a pathway of growth.
That's good.
I love it. I love it. So we're going to ease into this conversation. What is the best mistake that you've ever made?
Moving to Raleigh.
Why? How did that become the best mistake you ever made?
So, in that very winding trip of my resume in Charlotte, I was the director of research and design. I was getting paid to be creative. It was new in recovery. I was like, oh man, all of the promises are coming true. Look at me, I've got this title. I'm making the money. I'm supporting my family. And I was in a relationship, which again, you're like, oh, his promises are coming true. Look at what recovery has given me. And he was in Raleigh, and I moved to Raleigh. And threw away that job, that title, that security.
This is getting juicy.
Yeah. And that was, I would say, one of the biggest mistakes I ever made was not processing that with my mentors, my community, really thinking it through, playing that tape all the way through of what was going to happen by moving here. And it was the best mistake I ever made.
What do you like about Raleigh now? Outside of the, obviously the work that you do, but what are some things that you think of Raleigh just spark this memory of Raleigh?
So Raleigh for me is this. It symbolizes this a deeper level of growth that I've gone through. It represents kind of an emotional bottom for me, and when I moved here, it kind of hinged on some different opportunities I thought were going to happen. And over the last several years of being here, I've done it on my own. Like Raleigh has provided creative opportunities, nonprofit opportunities. I mean, I wouldn't be sitting in this seat today if Raleigh didn't see a need in this community to help people who are underserved. Yeah. So there's a different dynamic here. I think the nonprofit scene is very diverse and dynamic in Raleigh. That sticks out to me and provides opportunity, for people who otherwise wouldn't have opportunities.
I love it. I love it. So what is something that you could do for hours and get lost in time and just be involved in? It's like, wow, the whole day has passed.
So art for me, painting, for sure. I can get lost in and lose all track of time.
Is there a special type of art? Will it be oil painting, canvas, pastels?
So all of that mixed together and thrown on a canvas. So for me, growing up, I always wanted to be an artist. And that's all I did was draw and paint as a child. And growing up, older I got, I let that itty-bitty, poopy, shitty committee in your head start to speak a little too loud, and I put that aside. So something that I have gained in recovery was the ability to kind of put aside how I think my art should look like, how I think my life should look like. And when I stopped comparing my art to other artists who maybe were portrait artists, like that's good art to me, or things that I admire and I want to buy, when I put that aside and just started to just be present and let it evolve naturally, that creative process became more authentic. And so for me, that is like mixed media, kind of meditative practice of painting.
I love it. How about you guys, man? Is there anything that you guys can get lost in? Is there something that's just a love that you'll look up in time is just...
For me, it's either playing the guitar or any instrument, my piano or the guitar, or I'll get lost in Netflix. Don't let me find a series that I haven't seen.
We should have said other than binge watching.
I almost said Walking Dead. Is that one?
I'll look up, like, oh man, it's 1 o'clock. I need to go to bed. Like,
I didn't do anything.
2 more episodes.
Right?
2 more episodes.
Yeah.
But it's either music or TV, unfortunately.
Yeah. I think everybody kind of caught up with that. How about you, Kurt?
I think I'm in line with creative stuff. Just anything that I can be creative and get my juices going. And I just And I found that late, but it's something that really centers me.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I can be still. I can be quiet. Have some jazz playing and just be quiet, man. So that's my.
It's surprising. Like, again, this is a lifestyle for us, but I'm surprised neither one of them said reading. I really am. Yeah, like both of them are avid readers. Yeah. So, yeah, I know, Jay.
That's a boring. I didn't want to be boring because we know that.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't get to do it as much anymore. And now that I'm working from home, I find other stuff to take my attention. It used to be an Audible book every week I go through, and if I really like the book, I'd have to get the paper copy to go through the notes. Yeah. But I haven't done that in a minute.
Yeah. Mine is adventurous. I've always been against the grain, right? Different. So zip lining, gun range. What can we do to be outdoors and action oriented? So. We definitely want to dig into this conversation, but we're going to go on a quick commercial break. So it's your boy, Bro Troy.
Or Kirk.
Bro Smith.
And we're here with Windi White at Healing Transitions. We'll be right back.
We always say that hope plus options equals success. When there's a lack of hope, oftentimes gravitate towards unfavorable decisions. When we can provide hope plus options, our children will ultimately be better. Through love, consistency, opportunity, and exposure, that's how we really touch these kids. That's how we empower them, that's how we inspire them, and that's how we encourage them. And that's what we do well here at Y4C.
Welcome back to the Bro Code Show. It's your boy, Bro Smith. We're here with Windi White here at Healing Transitions. I am taken back by your range of experiences prior to being here. I am curious if you could share a little bit more about your road to recovery, how all of those experiences kind of linked up, and where you really developed that passion for providing services like these to the individuals that it benefits.
Okay. Well, one of the things I would say is a character defect of mine that probably led to my alcoholism was putting others before myself. So, I gave up being the director of education in Marine Quest at UNCW after I had my son to stay at home with him, and kind of just started to piece together ways to stay engaged, I would say, in making money, providing for the family. But really, it always evolved around kind of what my ex-husband's needs were with his career and where the kids were at, what their needs were. So these things kind of just all evolved. And it was more reactionary than with purpose. And so that's, earlier when I was talking about really losing myself, I really got lost in those things and lost in the expectations that others had for me, instead of being true to like that artist, the little girl who wanted to be an artist growing up. But what I found was the common denominator in all of the different things that I've done was to be of service to people. And when I was a stylist and I was a part of event planning, I was exposed to some nonprofits and loved the work and wanted to be more engaged. And when I moved to Raleigh and was kind of at an emotional bottom, spiritual bottom at that point, I wanted to do something. I was in a career I wouldn't say a career, I was working a job just to make ends meet. Right. And I needed something to fill me up. And I started volunteering here. And they wanted me to volunteer because I was an artist and because I had experience with event planning, and they were putting on a fundraiser that they wanted me to chair the committee. So that's kind of, all of those past experiences all kind of, I like to say, it was like the hand of God moving me along and giving me experience in all these different sectors that then prepared me for this position, which brings all of my passions under one roof.
When do you think you truly found yourself? If that has even happened. We've talked to a lot of folks that have reinvented themselves at latter parts of their life, in their 40s, 50s. And you've been through a lot. I hardly know a lot of your story, but what you've shared so far is a real testament to your strength. So where do you think you found you?
I think that's an ongoing process for sure. I hope, honestly, that I never arrive at the, here I am, and I know myself in and out, because I just feel like the journey is so exciting. But I definitely remember after my divorce, and then having this one moment of like the fog was lifted, and I was in Chicago, and I went to the Art Institute, and I remember walking into the Georgia O'Keeffe room, and I was so overwhelmed I just started crying. And all I could think of was, there you are. Hi, there you are. And then fast forward a few years later, getting sober. That journey there, and really getting to the root of like what my motivators are. I would say I've gotten to know myself in a way that I'm grateful for. I'm so grateful to have this, clarity of mind and presence, and a spiritual practice that I get to live a more authentic life.
Yeah. That's good stuff.
Yeah, I would love to hear a little bit, before we talk about healing transitions, of the young Windi. You're growing up in Ohio. I think that's the state, Ohio. Being from Michigan, it's still hard for me to say that, but but I think it's Wellington, Ohio, city of like 5,000. Can you speak to us about your upbringing and what that was like?
Sure. So we moved a lot. So I was born in Ohio, Oberlin, which is close to Wellington, and polar opposites, very liberal, diverse town. And then you move over to Wellington 5 minutes down the road, and it's one stoplight and no diversity at all. Farming community. Love it. It was an amazing place to live. We moved 13 times before I was in the 7th grade. So I was always the new kid. I think there's, young Windi, again, spent her time reading, drawing, painting. As a family, my dad got sober by finding God. So we were in church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday, and then there was, dinner at the pastor's house a couple other nights that week. And that was an interesting journey for me because, my mom had me when she was 20. And my dad, who adopted me, had been married before. And when the church found out about that, this church that we, really felt like family, no matter where we moved, we always found, a congregation. And then when we landed back in Ohio, we became a part of this church. And when they found out that my mom had me out of wedlock and that my dad had been married before, they came to my family and said, look, this is what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to go back to your first wife. You're going to have to let him. Windi is a bastard child. So no matter what she's ever going to do, she's condemned to go to hell. And at the time, I didn't realize how much that stuck with me. And it's that, your worth and what your actions And when you've been raised in the church to believe like it's black or white, these are the things you do and you get to go to heaven. Now I'm being told like it doesn't matter what I do, how good of a person I am. That's just not what's going to happen for me. So I think, as I got older, that self-worth and that what my story was going to be was really shaped by that experience and hearing those words from people that, my family had really come to respect and were advised by. And I have to say, after that, I don't think my dad has ever stepped foot in a church since then. And organized religion has become something that, has been difficult to relate to. Spirituality, not. Spirituality, all day, every day. So Windi, growing up, had lots of different things going on and lots of different stories being told or that she was listening to that was shaping this kind of negative narrative about who she was, what she could do, and who she could be.
Yeah. Do you find today that you still kind of have some of those things that you think about and say, why am I doing this? And it goes way back to some of those?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the only way to combat that is, I'll hear myself say something or thinking a thought that's really limiting. And I immediately, and thank goodness now it's more of a quick reaction, like, nope, I got to rewrite that narrative. Let's change that narrative to something more positive, something more capable, something more powerful.
Yeah, I love that word, power. I wanted to hear context of where you had come from, because I think it lends to the point of why we serve so much, some of the things we've been through, and it just becomes a lifestyle because of what you've been through. You want to help other people and have their power back to them. But let's transition into Healing Transitions. You guys have been here for 21 years.
Yeah, going into our 21st year.
Expansion, doing all these great things. Talk to us a little bit about the work overall for the people who may be viewing that don't know what you do.
So Healing Transitions, we have both a men's and a women's campus. We serve people who are uninsured, experiencing homelessness. We are a peer-to-peer model, which means people who are teaching the classes, working in detox, working in the overnight shelters, all are current participants. They are just a little bit further in the program. Okay. So it really shows that person who's coming in, like, wait, like you were just out on the street, you were just using, and you're laughing, like you're smiling, you're having conversation, you've been sober for a month. It plants that seed of hope that maybe they can do it too. Another thing that makes us unique is that we believe in as many times as it takes. So we are not a 30, 60, 90-day program. You can enter the program at different entry points, non-medical detox, overnight shelter. If you see something that speaks to you, you can stay and join the recovery program, which is life skills, recovery dynamics. The average stay for a person who goes all the way through the program is 14 months. We believe in as many times as it takes because, addiction is just a insidious disease, and it doesn't, always mean that it's one and done. So we realize that it's not a linear path. You can come back as many times as it takes. You're always welcome.
Tell us more about, well, first and foremost, I want to clear something up. I'm a believer in Christ. He found me. And in spite of me, he allowed me to use the gifts and the talents to serve others. And I'm forever grateful for that. And I'm appreciative, and I want to apologize to you and those that may have been, unfortunately, cast down because of that, man. Like, there's nothing that can separate you from his love, and there's nothing that you did or can do that will take away from that. And it's unfortunate that we're still having, and there's reformations out there that are still teaching that theology. And I was blessed to be able to serve a leader that took me where I was at and didn't speak and spew that toxic untruth.
Right. I mean, I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, it always amazes me now as an adult and understanding what God's love actually is.
Agape love is something that only He can do, and what I love about that is that there's nothing that you can separate you from that. And that's why I love the work that we do, because being able to spread the love of Christ, which is an action word, by doing something and not just spewing hate, because that's something that causes divide. So we're going to dig more. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about some of the successes, some of the great works, and some of the things that are happening, because oftentimes I think we focus so much just on what's not happening. There's great things that are happening here at Healing Transition. So we'll be right back on the Bro Code Show.
The Bros just got stronger. We've added a new member to the team, Ruth Proctor. The blonde bombshell herself will be hosting this new segment called The Proctor Report. This segment will share behind-the-scenes footage and engage questions from our listeners from a female point of view. Tap in to the Bro Code.
This is Ruth Proctor here with The Proctor Report. September is National Recovery Month, and who else can we be sitting with other than Windi White? How are you doing today?
Good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
How do you, deal with being a woman in leadership in nonprofit?
Oh, that is a loaded question. I think that I try to keep in mind that I'm here to serve. So when things are getting hairy or things like women's rights are in jeopardy, being a woman in leadership, I feel like it's my duty, it's my role to be the steady hand, to be a voice, to lift others up when they don't feel seen and heard. So for me, it's just about keeping in mind that I'm here to serve.
Love it. I love it. And in serving, me and you are in that same space of leadership and being a woman in leadership and having to tackle staff and clients. How do you, take that lens off and say, you know what, I'm gonna take care of Windi today? Because for me, self-care, the guys were just joking about me traveling, but that's my self-care. And dealing with my staff and being in the mental health field and having to deal with their mental health and, my staff mental health and my clients' mental health, I have to take that hat off and say, you know what, I have to decompress and go travel for a second so that I can come back and be a good boss and be a good mom. So what do you do for yourself when it comes to that?
So I've discovered that my self-care is evolving. I am definitely an extroverted introvert. So I'm giving it my all. Yeah. 5 days a week, 14-hour days, and when the weekend rolls around, I tend to hibernate. I need it quiet. I don't need to be stimulated. I need to rest. Yeah. I need to eat. I need to read. Yeah. I need things that are going to kind of quiet my mind and my soul. And so lots of walks in nature, painting, reading. But sometimes I feel like, wow, where's the fun? Where's, that part is a hard balance. But to be in this role and to deal with the stress that comes our way as a woman in leadership, working in a nonprofit, the recovery community, I've definitely had to accept that self-care kind of looks like, and it's okay to hibernate.
Right. I love it. Y'all hibernating? Make sure you hibernate because it's important. And it's true, just to sit home and sit on a porch and just have a glass of coffee or a cup of coffee is just so gratifying. What some people might think is boring, but like you said, we have so much going on a day-to-day basis that is relaxation.
Well, it's giving yourself permission. you have to give yourself permission, and that was something that was really hard for me. I always felt like I needed to be out doing something, and I would get these invites, and last minute, just like, man, I cannot go.
Yeah.
I cannot go. This is something I want to do,
Right.
and I'd love to do,
Yeah.
but, you know, I need to be quiet. So that's when I kind of got more into acceptance of self-care. Looks like rest and quiet and lots of coffee and good books.
I love it. I love it. So I understand that at the healing transition, you guys, everyone that works here has been in a space of recovery.
Well, 67%, I
Okay.
would say, have been in recovery or are an alumni of our program.
Okay.
We do have a few people that we have welcomed into the village that are not a part of the recovery community, but definitely have a call, you know, to serve in this mission. So, not everybody, but most.
Got you. And you yourself are a graduate of the program in a sense.
I am not a graduate of Healing Transitions, but I am a woman in recovery.
Okay.
And I'm coming up on 6 years of sobriety.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's a blessing.
It is.
So how does that look being a mom, you know, and saying, this is what happened to me and this is what I did and this is what mom is doing now?
Right. So yeah, mom looks a whole lot different now than what mom used to. And I'm really lucky that, you know, my bottom in my drinking days didn't end with DUIs or my kids being taken away.
Right.
That is many mom stories.
Yeah, it's true.
It's not mine yet.
Thank God.
Yes.
No, at all. Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet. We always say in recovery, you have today. So today, that's not my story. That's not my bottom. But so mom, while I was drinking, was always on the go. Everything for everybody.
Yep.
The host, little Martha Stewart, hostess with the mostest.
Yeah.
But never truly present.
Okay.
You know, very kind of detached, not a lot of emotion.
Okay.
Mom started, you know, it evolved over time where, you know, this mom just, to do homework, you know, was a couple of glasses of wine.
Okay.
You know, we couldn't go and do certain activities after a certain amount of time because I'd already had too much and couldn't drive the kids.
Okay.
So a lot of like life is just revolving around my drinking.
Okay.
And luckily my kids were young enough, and like I said, there weren't any really big things happening that, you know, were impacting them in a big way. But my recovery and how I've evolved as a mom so far, I mean, I remember the day that I sat down with my daughter to do homework, and it was the first time ever that I had done homework sober. And it was probably one of the scariest things I'd ever done.
Because you were great at it.
It was crazy, but I did it. And I think that I have such an appreciation for like quality time with my kids.
Right.
And being able to put aside anything else that I'm doing now and really focus and listen
present.
when I know that they need me.
Yeah.
I'm not as selfish and self-centered. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's not all about me.
Yeah.
They have grown up so fast, and I only
Yes.
have a couple more years with my daughter at home. So it's really being present in the moment and cherishing the good, the bad, and the ugly all at the same time. It's getting to see some of the things that I've learned, the tools I've learned in
Right.
recovery being modeled back to me through
Right.
my kids. That's amazing to me to see them be able to have access to things that I didn't
Right.
at that age.
Right.
Their viewpoint and the way they interact and walk through struggles that they
Right.
go through
Right.
looks a lot different. And I honestly contribute that to me practicing my own recovery program.
It's like your story made their life even better because you were able to explain a lot and understand a lot.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
And do you guys have that conversation? Like, is it like, Mom, been through XYZ, because I had to have that conversation on the trauma side. Mommy was molested, and mommy, my stepdad did this to me, and that's why mommy don't allow you guys to go to people's house, and and I think at first they didn't understand it, but now they're like, wow, mommy, like this happened at school, and this this happened to this kid, and so now they're like, okay, we understand.
Right. So thank you for sharing that. And that story's, trauma.
Yeah.
And my kids have been through a lot of trauma.
Yeah.
Just growing up, and the relationship that, during my marriage, the relationship that we all had. So they've been through so much therapy and family therapy, that they kind of understood about like getting help.
Okay, good.
And talking about problems and transparency and not taking ownership of other people's actions.
Yep.
So some of that foundation was there.
Good.
And then when I slowly started to introduce the concept of, I'm not drinking anymore, and I hopefully won't ever drink anymore.
Right.
And I have to, go and practice this self-care of my recovery.
Yes.
I was able to introduce it in these small, digestible increments that they could get.
Right.
And they say you got to put your oxygen mask on yourself first before you put it on your kids. And so I've used that with my kids a lot. Like when I've had to go, go to meetings, go, meet with other people. And it's like, really, Mom, again, like, why are you leaving? Why do you have to go do that? It's, I say it's for my self-care. It's for you. It's so that, we can have this better way of life.
Exactly. And I love that analogy that you said about the oxygen mask. I'm gonna have to steal that.
Got to put your oxygen mask on first.
Oh my God.
And as moms, we do not do that.
We don't. We're gonna make sure they got the mask first.
Yes.
And then we're good. It's like, okay, as long as they're good, I can die today. But if they're good, we're good.
Right. So that was the thing. I had not put on my oxygen mask for years.
Right.
I was, what did
mode.
you need me to be?
Yep.
I'm going to be that for you.
Yep.
It got to the point where I didn't even know who I was anymore. My identity was completely gone. And I think most moms can relate to that. Yep. You're the wife, you're the mom, you're the friend, you're the daughter, the sister, PTA.
Yep.
Your career, soccer mom. All of the things. It's exhausting.
It is.
And I had no idea who I was anymore. And except, I found myself in the bottom of a bottle, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And once I, was pulled up out of that bottle, I've been given the opportunity to figure out, well, who am I outside of all of those things? Because that's one thing our kids don't get. I didn't get it.
Nope.
You're not just mom.
Right.
Like you're all of these other things, and living this whole other life outside of that that mom title. So for me, I just getting to evolve and discover, who I am as a woman, and practice that.
I love it.
And it's a practice.
Every day. One foot in front of the other.
Exactly. And I think, honestly, like that's one of the best gifts I can give my kids, especially my daughter, is to watch me kind of make time for that and be true to that practice.
And she's going to be such an amazing young lady watching you do that, because we are not what our parents were. Our parents told us to shut up and sit down. Our generation is teaching our children to speak. We want to know what's going on. Talk to me. Tell me what's wrong. What happened? And I think it gives them a different voice. It lets them know that it's okay to speak. That's why they can go to therapy and talk, because we weren't taught to go to therapy. We were taught to just deal with it and go on. Mm-hmm. Now we're pulling up all that generational stuff, and it's challenging. But I'm so proud of us, and I'm so proud of you. So keep doing what you're doing. Keep pushing, because she's watching you. You have a son.
I do.
And he's watching you.
20. Yes.
Yeah. And they're seeing how you walk, and in your profession, you're showing, every day that I can do this and you can too. So We are here with Windi White with Healing Transitions, and I'm Ruth Proctor here with the Proctor Report.
So tell me what to do. Lord, you only seek the truth. If you want to bear fruit, then it needs to abide in you. If you seek transformation, it happens in solitude. Since I never had a shot, God threw me the alley-oop. I believe I can fly. Let me mingle with the angels. Heaven's in my peripheral. I see it from an angle.
Yeah, Windi, before the break, first and foremost, thank you for sharing your story. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure not just us in the moment, anyone who's listening can really relate to that. But one of the things that I found interesting, just listening to your story, is in the early years, art was a passion for you. Like, it was something that drove you. And then you said, though you didn't use the word doubt, you used words, right? Which same concept where people were spewing doubt to you, which kind of spewed you away from that. And then here it is, I don't know what stage of your life that you went into that art museum, but you said, hey, there you are, where you said that was a moment that you found yourself. Mm-hmm. You know, I think that's very impactful, and by no coincidence that the very same thing that you allowed people to talk you out of is where you found who you are in your solemn. So I think that's very impactful, man, and I'm quite sure Bro Kirk said the same thing, right?
Yeah, I gotta know, like, because I know for a lot of creatives, they get talked out of being creative, whether it's friends or family members. You know what, you're not gonna make any money as an artist, go be this. But that true artist never dies, it just is on the shelf. How did that happen for you?
So my family was always really supportive and encouraging for me to explore my creative side. But we start to move away from believing what our parents tell us, per se, to, you know, our teachers. So 6th grade, working on an art project, an art class, and the art teacher's going around the room asking people, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I said, I want to be an artist. And she looked at my work and looked at me and said, I'd think about doing something else if I were you.
This was an art teacher.
Art teacher.
Wow.
Education.
Who actually owned a local art gallery.
Wow.
So to me, like, she was everything.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
I bet that she was just having a bad day, and it was an off-the-cuff comment that completely reshaped how I viewed myself as an artist.
Words matter.
Yeah, they do.
Words matter.
That's why we
For
have to
sure.
be so careful, and we talk about that. We have to be careful what we say to people. Be very mindful of the power of our words, because some words you put out there and you don't know what that person's dealing with on the inside, you can't take it back. You can't. So I love that.
Powerful, powerful. So for all the educators out there, words matter. Yeah. Oftentimes, you know, we work in this sector. Like, we're in the schools, and, you know, we have conversations like this all the time. One, again, I didn't do it, we didn't do it, but it's unfortunate that you had to, and then to talk about how that still resonated with you. What was this, elementary school?
That was 6th grade. And then, I mean, I continued on, was in advanced art all through high school. Junior year, everybody's putting together, you know, their portfolios to start showing colleges. Art teachers going around the room, checking in, you know, are you going to work on your portfolio? What are you going to do? And, you know, I am a person growing up. I am changing and evolving and growing. But validation from other people was really important. If I didn't think I was, you know, pleasing you in some way, then I wasn't going to do it. And we're looking at work to put in the portfolio, and I'm thinking maybe I'm going to go into marine and environmental education at this point. And because I you know, passion for the environment. And when she comes around and I say, well, I'm thinking about maybe doing this instead, she didn't push back. She was like, okay. Like, no one stopped and said, hey, maybe, you should think about the fact that science really isn't your strong suit. Like, why are you thinking about going to school for this? You live in this art studio. Why would you not want to pursue art? And again, probably having, 10 other things on her mind when she's having this conversation with me. But because she didn't sit there and push and validate, then I was like, well, that's right. I listened to that narrative in my head. I'm not good enough.
Sure, you mentioned it with our education work. We do that. Like we'll ask those questions, and then we immediately go into why, to kind of reinforce, to hear their story. And a lot of them know, and then we can double down and pour the seeds of that. So it's important.
Well, and I think it's important for kids to start to learn, like, what you're passionate about. That's where you need to go. Not what's practical, not what mom and dad necessarily want you to do. It really needs to be like, what sparks that joy in you.
How do you use those lessons to instill that same amount of hope in the people that are here, to where they now have that energy, that enthusiasm to do something new, different?
I'll tell you, it's one of the greatest gifts, honestly, to have the platform to be able to serve in that way. I started off as a volunteer doing those painting classes, and we are so fortunate here that the fitness community really supports the participants. They're really involved, and they provide a lot of different outlets. No one was providing creative outlets, and fitness doesn't speak to everybody.
That's right.
So when I was able to connect with people and give them a safe place to be vulnerable and be creative, whether it was through spoken word, music, photography, or painting, and I started to, using my own life experiences, break down, don't compare yourself. Don't have this preconceived notion of what it's supposed to look like at the end. Just sit in the process and be authentic with it. Pause, walk away when you need to, come back to it. Getting to watch them come into their own and connect with parts of themselves that they hadn't maybe ever, or had definitely been buried through layers of trauma and addiction. Seeing them express themselves in that way is just truly an honor and a gift.
I'm curious, what are some of those success stories? Now you've poured into, like, we talk about the state of recovery and that process through those 12 steps. We have had the opportunity to go into the courtyard and kind of tell the story through art, right? The wall, or that barrier that we acknowledge when we first start going into this process, and then taking it step by step through the water, right? And then finally getting into, what's the end call? The end of recovery? What do we call that? The opening, the door to recovery, excuse me.
Yep, walking through the door of recovery.
Unlocking the door of recovery. So what are some of those stories of those that have, in 21 years, gone through this non-judgmental, come as you are, as many times as it takes, process? Talk to us about that.
So there are so many success stories. There are families that have been reunited. There are people who have experienced chronic homelessness, who have found quality of life. People that, were getting Christmas presents at the hospitals from the nurses because they were there all of the time to be able to get out of the cold, or get out of the heat, or to get food. Now are here and have found stability and security and fellowship in a community where they don't have to go and overuse those other resources that our community has. There are people that all different walks of life, people that wouldn't mix together, who have come together and, you know, encourage one another and have that fellowship. Who, you know, there's one story I want to share that has been most impactful, that I've been able to witness since I started. This young man, he, you know, was just full of life, very bubbly. He was one of our peer mentors, which means he works in the planning room, and he teaches classes, and he kind of oversees all of the one of the people who oversees like bed movement, and, you know, the planning room runs the show around here. And always a great attitude, and he's worked his way through the program and really found himself, came into his own, and he was towards the end of the program when he was at work. So when you reach a certain stage of the program, you're either working here 40 hours a week or you've gone out and gotten a job. And he was at work and had a grand mal seizure. Goes to the hospital, do an MRI, they find a brain tumor. Within 24 hours, he's having brain surgery. Meanwhile, he has a whole community here that are just, you know, devastated because they've just watched this journey, and, you know, it's this, well, he didn't get sober to get cancer. He didn't get sober for this to happen. And the morning he was going into surgery, every single man was outside around that fountain in a prayer circle, you know, embracing and praying for him. And just to get to witness that, you know, sense of community and the way that they lift people up. Timmy comes out of surgery. Immediately, his room is so full of people, the nurses have to call, you know, time out. He immediately asks how everyone's doing here, because he knows, I mean, he knows this is something that would send people back out the door. You're going to use this as an excuse. So he's checking on everybody else. 2 days later, he is, you know, chairing a recovery meeting. I mean, the way that he has walked through that process, like, that is success. That is inspiring. I mean, I was inspired the way he handled himself and the way that he, you know, moved through that challenge with such grace and strength. And I mean, that's what Healing Transitions, like, gives you this space where you can find that again, where you can connect with different resources, whether it be the faith community, mental health services, stability, fellowship. I mean, that's what you find here and can take with you when you leave. I mean, now he's employed here, working, you know, in detox and living in sober living. I mean, so there's just so many, you know, success stories that live within, whether someone's been here for a day. I mean, to me, that's a success. Someone who was brave enough to come on off the street and ask for help for today, versus the person who has stayed here for, you know, 2 years working on their program. It's all a success.
I love that you guys give space for growth, and you said that over and over. So we've got Windi White here with Healing Transitions, the road to recovery, the Bro Code Show. We'll be right back.
The Bro Code TV show was created to amplify the voices of others and share courageous stories of community leaders, organizations, and businesses that are doing great things. Every Wednesday night at 7 p.m., you can catch Bro Troy, Bro Kirk, and Bro Smith for another courageous conversation. You can find those conversations on our YouTube channel at Bro Code TV Productions, and also our audio podcast channels, which are on Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts at The Bro Code Show. Tap in to the Bro Code experience. We all we got.
Mic'd up. Tell us about this. Tell us more about this wall. Like, what does this mean? Like, when we come into this garden, you know, what is this, and how does this play a piece of this puzzle of healing and recovery?
So Thomas Sayre designed this courtyard, and this artwork is supposed to depict hitting the wall of addiction.
Yeah.
So then when you walk around that or through it and go through the 12 steps of recovery, the door of recovery is open.
So this is kind of like when we talk about healing and we talk about a recovery, there's a space of process.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
And that's why these 12 steps are part of that process. So when you come into this space of healing and healing transitions, this is the story. That wall and whatever it is that you were hitting, that wall that you were hitting, you are now going through
rock bottom.
Rock bottom, that bottom. We're going to talk.
Bottom.
Love that. So as we take this, now we're in step 7. We're on the other side. We've broken down these 6. Now the last step, is it safe to say, is that the most powerful in rebirthing as you're walking into the door?
I would say my own personal experience is different for everybody. I would say step 1, 2, and 3. Those are the most powerful. When you come to believe that there's a power greater than yourself, man, anything's possible after that. Once you get out of your own way. The steps aren't anything that you go through one time and you're one and done. It's something that you go through and you live through for the rest of your life. And it's definitely, once you've done it and you've done it thoroughly, you've done it honestly, then the door's open to recovery.
And we want to talk more
Freedom.
about that, you know, as we sit down and uncover and really unpack this conversation. As someone that has went through these 12 steps, you've had to embrace and acknowledge this personally. We want to talk about more about what one of those steps hit you the hardest. Like as you were walking through it, not now, but I want you to think about that as we unpack this conversation.
Absolutely.
So it's your boy, Bro Troy.
Smith.
Hey, Ruth Proctor.
The Bro Code and the Proctor Report right here at Healing Transitions. We're walking through the gardens and actually telling the story about what recovery means both to Windi White as being the powerhouse of Healing Transitions and telling the story more about those that have had the opportunity to be part of the great work that's going on here at Healing Transitions. We look forward to more. We'll be back.
If you want to bear fruit, then it needs to abide in you. If you seek transformation, it happens in solitude. Since I never had a shot, God threw me the alley-oop. I believe I can fly, let me mingle with the angels. Heaven's in my peripheral, I see it from an angle.
The Bro Code TV show was created to amplify the voices of others and share courageous stories of community leaders, organizations, and businesses that are doing great things. Every Wednesday night at 7 p.m., you can catch Bro Troy, Bro Kurt, and Bro Smith for another courageous conversation. You can find those conversations on our YouTube channel at Bro Code TV Productions and also our audio podcast channels, which are on Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts at The Bro Code Show. Tap in to the Bro Code experience. We all we got.
So we're back on the Bro Code Show. Windi, all this work that you're talking about, this comes with a cost. How do y'all do it? How do you do all of this? Where does the money and support come from?
It takes a village, and we are so lucky that we have an amazing village that supports us.
Well, he hit on a little bit of it, but you know, we're still in the midst of a pandemic, inflation, recession. There's so many quote unquote reasons for individuals to go back to their addiction, to go back to the bottle, to go back to whatever their vice is. Do you see that, how do you see that impacting just the space as far as people being able to come, whether it's here or at the women's version of this?
So before the pandemic, we were already overcrowded. Which is why we launched our capital campaign to be able to expand the infrastructure. People were sleeping on mats, and they thought it was just where they started in the program. It was because we didn't want to turn anybody away. So the capital campaign is going to provide the infrastructure to serve 500 people per night, where we were originally designed to serve around 250. So what we, are doing now is growing, because the opioid epidemic, I should say, has now impacted, the community, the country, in this tremendous way, where it's twofold. It's provided the opportunity to have an open dialogue at this point about what addiction looks like. It's created more awareness with the way that Wake County has been growing. The homeless population grows with that as well. So, we're here to be able to provide, this service as many times as it takes. Because unfortunately, it's just getting worse out there. It's not getting any better.
Yeah. That's good.
What about ways to follow? Like, if people do want to give money, where do they go? How can they tap into these success stories and find out more through doing their research online?
So I would encourage everyone to go to our website. I would invite you all to come out for a tour to see and be inspired by the work that we're doing. There's several different ways to get involved, and after you've taken a tour, you can kind of see what fits you best. We have opportunities to serve meals, put together hygiene kits, teach classes, bring faith community, Bible studies up to campus, giving people rides to church, to recovery meetings. I mean, there's something for everyone. We've got youth groups that come up and help clean up the garden, do art projects, painting projects. So it's limitless, and
like
how
that
you
word
can
too.
get limitless. Also, we have a program called Changemakers, where you can enroll online to have an automatic payment come out every month. It can be $5, it can be $200. It fits whatever works best for you. Every little bit helps. Keep the doors open.
Awesome. We love it. We love it. So as we transition into this conversation, we're going to get into the next segment. Okay. Now, this one we did a little research. Now, we have another word we use. You used a lot of our words. Like, we love
Yes.
community, limitless, presence, being mindful, right? Loving yourself. Like, these are all the things that we definitely resonate on as well. But one of the things I did was a little research, right? We went into Windi's world. And in Windi's world,
That's great.
we got an opportunity to learn a little bit more about you. I've once heard, Windi, that a picture is worth 1,000 words. So we found 3 pictures that we want to learn a little bit more that you've shared on those that have access to your social media. And, we've had that pleasure on the Bro Code. We have access. But I'm going to share those with you once I can find my phone. Here we go. Boom. What we would like to hear is, one, why you shared these pictures with the world, like what they mean to you, and who's in it. And let's start with that one right there.
All right, so that's my dog Lou, my little 3-legged dog Lou. My daughter took that picture, and my impulse was to say, no, like, let's retake that, let's do over. She was trying to create content for my art workshops. And she looked at me and said, why? You look really happy. Like, you just look happy in that picture. And like, I could hear it in my head. I'm like, okay, I would never want my daughter to say, oh, I look fat, or I don't like that angle, or, my hair doesn't look good. So I'm going to sit here and just say, thank you. Okay, let's post it. So that's the story behind that picture. I will never forget that morning, and just that sitting in that uncomfortableness of, here I am, me drinking my coffee in the morning and not going to argue with my daughter because I want to be a
Have that
strong,
moment.
be a strong,
That's good.
confident woman for her.
Even in the little things, right? Being
Yes.
present. I picked this picture because my brother is a dog lover as well. And knowing him, I know that he just recently had a personal moment with his dog. Now, if he wants to share, I'll allow him to. But when I saw the picture, it really resonated. I didn't know the dog had 3 legs. That even made the story even more fun. So I was like, man, I really picked a good one. Right?
You did, because he really is one of the loves of my life.
And I gotta
For
ask,
sure.
like, all of us have most of the time there's a story of how the dog got his name. So why Lou?
When I adopted him, his name was Butlu.
Oh.
And, how can you yell that if the dog is about to run out into the yard,
Baloo.
out into the street?
So they took Blue and just said
and
it
I
slowly?
had a dog a long time ago, and the name was Blue, so we couldn't do that. So it's Blue.
Blue.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. A shelter dog or a rescue dog?
Rescue dog.
Yeah.
Rescue dog. My sister's best friend was fostering dogs with medical issues. He'd been hit by a car. He had a metal rod sticking out of his hip. So 4 adoptions fell through. And my kids had bonded with him. I had bonded with him. After the 4th one fell through, I was like, all right, you're mine.
Wow.
Meant to be. Come on home.
Yeah, they call them foster failures. When you adopt a dog, I foster as well. And the moment he spoke of was my dog I recently put down like 3 weeks ago. That was my only foster failure out of 7 dogs. But I know how dogs can bring joy.
So much joy. Love that dog.
Yeah. Indeed, I see it. It's written all over your face. Tell us about this one.
So that is one of my pieces of art that, to me, it's about kind of crossing over on the other side. So the journey and kind of eclipsing into, a new chapter.
Yeah. I love it. And that's contemporary art or is that abstract? Oh, you got a school.
It's abstract.
Okay, I don't know.
Do you have any of your art here?
In my office, I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
How much time would it take for you to create that?
It depends. I do a lot of texture layering that needs to dry. So usually, depending on the size of the canvas and how much texture and layers I'm putting into it, I think that one probably took about 4 hours.
Okay.
So ranging between a couple hours to a couple of weeks.
Okay.
And last but not least, tell us a little bit more about this one.
So this piece of art, I would say probably is one of my best that I've done. And I've had, abstract art means different things to different people when they look at it. And over the years, people have told me that they feel like this is my self-portrait. And one of my paintings that just really resonates with multiple people, and the one that my kids say I can never ever sell and get rid of. So for me, that's about that transformation and growth and just evolving into this new chapter.
Yeah, I love it. We have a couple more segments, but we're going to do this one next. We always say to give people their flowers while they're still here. We've also used words matter. And before we did the show, we asked you a question. We're like, hey, what is a word that resonates with you, whether that be through healing, whether that be through self-reflection, and we've got something that we want to share with you.
So first I'll show you, I have mine, as I always carry it with me, and my word is believe. But we created this segment because we really want people to understand how important it is to know they matter. And we took the $2 bill because it's not one you see every day, it's kind of rare, but your word was generate, which we want to know why. Our whole team has signed it for you. So this will be your copy. Your name's on the front and it says you matter. I think this really lends into the work that you guys all do. because that's what you're telling each person that's here, is that they matter, their life matters, their story matters, their tomorrow matters. And so it's so important, but we'll give you that.
Oh,
And
thank you.
tell us a little about the $2 bill. Does that mean anything to you?
It does. It means a lot to me, actually. So growing up, my grandfather was my rock, my favorite person in the world, and he used to give me $2 bills. So when I found out that you all were doing that, I was like, man, it just was very serendipitous that I was getting a $2 bill.
And why the word generate? Where's that? How does that?
So I had a hard time coming up with my word. And I was, the word serve kept coming up to mind, and I had asked a few people, and they were like, that is so vanilla. Like, you are so much more than that. And so the word generate was brought to my attention that, as a good descriptive word of me. So, and it resonated with me because I feel like that, that energy is what I'm all about.
Love it.
I love it. Well, Windi, we've asked you a whole lot of questions, so we got another segment on the show, and this one's called Flip the Script. So on this segment, you become the host, and now we're on the hot seat. You ask us anything you like, either collectively or individually. The mic is yours.
So working at Healing Transitions, one thing I've realized is that addiction impacts everybody in some way. So my question to all of you is, how has addiction impacted maybe you or someone you know or love?
That's good. I'm on the end now too. Let me think.
That's great.
Well, I don't mind going first. So you said something that I've heard before, and when you were as a child at the church, they called you a bastard child. And I'm a product of two parents that they never married, and both of them, and I'm still processing through this now, have been challenged and afflicted with anger, right? And here it is. I'm a bastard child, right? They've never been married, and here here's this light-skinned, green-eyed baby. I was blue eyes when I was a kid, but it was a baby. But and now here it is. I'm a product of this, and in my younger years, and still doing it now, really trying to process through that. Similar to how you were trying to process through the art, I was trying to process who I am in my space in this dynamic, because I didn't choose my parents, right? So, when we talk about addiction, I think people get that word so skewed, because you can get addicted to anything.
That's right.
When you hear the word addiction, you automatically go to drugs and alcohol. Most people do. But you could be addicted to pornography, be addicted to soda, addicted to candy, right? So, for me, I allowed my addiction, or what I would say my addiction is, and what I'm still working towards in that space of recovery, is still healing from the past of the dynamics of my family relationship. And it hits me real hard, because I always have to think about the work that has been placed on me, the mantle that's placed on my life. And I have to go to therapy every Thursday at 2:00. Like, I got to. Like, I have to have somebody to exhaust some of these things from. I have to work out, because that's my space of healing. I have to be in nature. I have to be around good people, because that's my space of healing. So that way the addiction doesn't consume me so much that the labor that I have to do becomes belaboring. So for me, it's really just healing from the addictions of my past as it becomes to the family dynamic.
I gotta go after that.
You let me go first.
Yeah, I
like,
did.
you know?
I knew that was a mistake. That's a tough one. Just listening to you talk, Troy, I had to go to my family dynamic as well, and looking back, I don't know if I saw it as an addiction. I just knew it was something that kept my father kind of away. You know, he worked a lot. He was always on the road doing something, and I knew why. You know, he's giving us a better life, allowing me to see things that children around my area may not have seen when we were together. But, you know, I look back, it's like, man, he always had to be somewhere doing something. And I like, man, I feel like I missed out on some of those moments. You know, just me and my father just spending time, to where the first time we actually spent a good chunk of time together wasn't until I was 38, 39, going to a football game and driving all the way there. It was in Philly, actually no, New York. Got to see my Giants play, and driving all the way back. And I was like, man, this is the longest time we've been in the same space, just you and me, like ever. You know, we had chances to kind of break bread, talk through some things, and so that's the closest thing I could go to as far as feeling as someone had an addiction to something, whether it be for a purpose-driven goal, but looking at kind of the impacts of what that was and how I might want to behave in that same format.
I would say I've had several family members that have been addicts in different ways, but it really, what's hard is that they were people that I looked up to, and so some of the ways about me came from them because I trusted them, addicts or not. I didn't know, I was young, and so now that I look back on it, I have some family members that are going through recovery right now, and so understanding the journey of all those people and what they taught me, was it something that was needed at the time? Yes, but now I have to unlearn all of it because those stories were not true. It was where they were at. And so again, it's so important to have compassion for people that are going through recovery because they're doing the best they know how at the time. So yeah. And that's something else that we should talk more about, is just like there's so many unknown misconceptions from people who have never been through it of what it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
I knew she was going to come up with some deep.
You already knew.
She was smiling over there earlier. I was like, wait a minute.
She's over there. Excellent.
Oh, the next one. I have one.
Oh, you got another one?
I have one more.
Get the tissues ready, man.
So, what is your process for getting out of your own way?
That's good.
That is good. It depends on why I feel the need to get out. You know, sometimes for me it's just I shut the computer down, I turn the TV off, and I just walk. When I had my car, and that's a whole other story, I would drive. You know, I'd say, all right, I'm vibing out to my music, or just riding with the windows down, with no real place to go. That was before gas.
Yeah, I was about to say, man.
Where it was too. That would just be my safe space. Was in my car, listen to music, listen to podcasts, listen to audibles, and just drive. Like I put over 200,000 miles almost on that car, like 4 or 5 years. So a little bit too much driving, but that was my woosah space.
Man, there's so many. Driving's one for me. Just go, country, wherever, sites, journaling. One of the biggest ones that I've done in the last 5 years, I'd say, is really allowing people that I love, that are close to me, the opportunity to speak things that maybe I don't see, and I don't take it personal now. So it's because the way they look at my life, they may see something that I just don't, a pattern that I don't see. And so I've really worked hard on that, is not taking things personal, because I've saw so much growth from it. Meditation, just all the things that I think that we need to get out of our own way. Yeah, and one more, grace. I give myself so much grace now. Like, yo, bro, you're doing the best you know how. And sometimes people won't allow you to do that, but you have to do it for yourself, especially if you have past, as we all do. So,
yeah, we're true believers in being responsible for my own happy. So every day is my birthday. Grown man. So, you know, I will say we're very big on self-love. Like getting out of my own way, I've always been a go-getter. Like I've never had a problem saying, you know what, nothing beats a failure but a try. So, hey, we'll worry about later. Like out of the three of us, I am the one that'll jump out of the plane without the parachute. I'll figure it out on the way down, you know. But that's why we work so well together. But I truly believe that for me personally, I've never had a fear of failure.
Really?
I don't mind. Failure is just another way not to do something. Don't mean I can't get it accomplished. It just means, that way, that ain't gonna work. So we need to figure out another way. And we have these conversations all the time. We're like, let's go.
Hours and hours and hours.
Exactly, but that's my spirit. Like my spirit is, okay, well, there is no such thing as a loss. It was a lesson. Let's move forward. Let's move forward. Let's chew the meat and spit out the bone. We say that all the time. So I really need people around me like the bros, because I know that has taken me into deep waters without a life preserver and has caused time, money, embarrassment, has potentially scarred or hurt potential relationships. So for me, I've never had a problem getting out my own way. Mine's is the reins. Like I need the blinders so I can, because I'm a true Taurus. Man, give me a goal, I'm gonna go get it.
Wait, since we're talking about signs, okay, you're a Sagittarius. I did my homework.
Okay.
Right, and they say that they're loyal, compassionate, intelligent, and they say on the opposite side they don't have a filter. Is any of that true about you? I'm just saying. That's
Clearly,
I didn't say
from this podcast.
I didn't say this. So we got a Taurus, a Sagittarius, a Libra.
Libras.
This is the team Libra.
Yeah, that's right. They're both born October. That's
With balance.
Yes.
Balance.
Even kids.
Balance. I love it.
Indecisiveness as well.
Indecisive.
Yes.
Libras.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, big time.
You guys could not make a
But
decision.
not in a bad way. Like, mine's because I don't really care a lot. So I'm like, when I say that, I mean, I care, but like, I don't care what we eat. Let's just eat.
I just got to. I want to have my choices. Give me at least 2 choices for every decision. Eventually I'm just all right. We're going for option A.
Eventually, that's the part. That's the eventual part, right?
Make the decision. Yeah.
Yeah, man. But it works well. So I think that's the balance. We just talked about it. Like I'm Taurus 2.0, so we need the balance.
Double the Libra.
Yeah, so that's where it works well. Right.
Clearly it does.
Clearly.
Yes.
Love it.
Absolutely.
No, you didn't put anything else in that notebook, did you? As far as another question, did you?
I do have one more.
Oh, well, I just wanted to make sure. I was just wondering.
I mean,
She's gonna bill us for this.
one of my favorite topics is gratitude. So just, what are you grateful for? What do you have gratitude for?
Oh, for me, it's easy, man. It's life is special. I had the chance to go to Lima, Peru back in June and do some mission work, going out to different villages and doing Bible lessons, seeing the kids, and I walk up in their communities, and some of it was just a hut, not a hut, but a shelter space no bigger than this. But you never know that there was anything wrong. And so, some days I get to be like, oh man, I wish I had this, I wish I had that. And I'm grateful for the things I have and the ability to experience life through those prisons and seeing the world from outside of just Raleigh. And that's something I know a lot of people don't always have the opportunity to do. So I'm grateful for the world experiences that have shaped how I live my life.
So I don't want to be cliche and say my family and all those things, because those are obvious. I mean, like, not everybody does that, but I'm grateful for my family and all those things. But I'm truly grateful for something that he tapped on, which is understanding how valuable a human experience or my life is. One of one. So there's, we're in here and we're one of one. And that is the most powerful thing we have. So I don't have to compare. I don't have to go out and have validation, even though I'll do it because I'm human, but I don't have to have that. And I'm special, I'm special, as we all are. And understanding, when you get to a point where you own that, life looks totally different. I don't need to buy anything to have value. I don't need to be a PhD to have value. I don't need a 7-bedroom house to have value. I am valuable, no matter where I'm at. And that energy is what everybody should want to feel. So I'm grateful I'm in that space and I own it. Yeah.
Grateful, like, yeah, that's another one of our buzzwords. Like, there's a clothing line just around that, and I buy clothes from them all the time because it's a word that resonates with me. But I think one of the greatest questions that we have as humans is, why are we here? Like, why do I take up space on Earth? You know, why have I been given the experience of traveling the world? You said something earlier. All of the things that you've done in your past life, if you want to call that, up until what you're doing now, which I dare to believe is part of your purpose, help to equip you. Well, I share that same story, and that's what I'm truly grateful, because I've understood and found my why. Like, I'm living and walking out my purpose every single day, with every conversation, every text message, every email, every thought, every song, every proposal, and all the things that come in between, every conversation that we have. I'm walking out my why, and I get a chance to see God use me in a way that I never imagined. Like, I don't have any letters behind my name. So it lets you know how powerful of him equipping those who are called, not vice versa. You know, so that's what I'm grateful for. That's what I'm really grateful for. And then now I get to share that dopeness and experience, and I'm still in my right mind to share that with other people, to say, yo, like, you can, that's possible for you too. Like, I am special, but you have access to that special too in your own way, and I'm grateful for that. Yeah.
Beautiful.
You ain't got another one, do you? She's thinking, she's over there like, well, that leads me to another question.
I mean, I could talk about walking in your purpose, and yes, when that day arrives, and you can look back and go, okay, that's why I went through that. That's why I went through that.
That's right.
Aha.
Those aha moments, and I have them every single day. Whether it's be a license plate, a podcast, something I read, something that resonates with me, that recalls something my grandmother said to me. It'll pop back up. I'm like, I'll share this when we move on, because we're done with the show, but my grandmother always would teach me in parables, almost like Jesus. Like, she wouldn't say Matthew this or give me the address to what it is that she's trying to resonate with me. She would just tell me. One of the ones she always used with me is, baby, never let the left hand know what the right hand is doing. And she would always use that in a sense of not telling people your business and saving money. But contextually, that's in the book of Matthew. And they were talking about not boasting of your good works. Like, just doing it because that's the right thing to do. Not having to shout this thing from the mountain. What my grandmother was doing was she was teaching me indirectly. I didn't know that until I became a good steward and started studying. And I got an aha moment. I was like, hold on, Grandma, that had nothing to do about no money. That had nothing to do about telling people your business. But that was her way of connecting the dots. Yeah. So anyway, we've had a good time. We done almost cried, talked about this, that, and the third. But we always end the show the same way, and that is with a quote. And tonight is no different. Tonight's quote reads, "Healing is slow for a reason." It's your boy, Bro Troy.
Bro Kirk. Bro Smith.
And we are. Yeah, so that was good. You know, I think this is the first time where we've gotten deep into the flip the script part. Like, we've been asked a whole lot of questions, ladies.
Anytime we get on these couches.
Is that what it is? Is it the couch feel?
Yeah, because
Jess do the same?
Michelle got us with a bunch of questions too.
Oh, realtor?
You know, what's good about that is that we ask questions that are strict all the time. We don't get asked questions. So it kind of puts us on the spot.
Well, it does.
It's a good feeling to have.
Yeah, it does.
To work through those.
And
Especially the deep, reflecting questions like those.
And you have to process really quickly.
You do, you know what I'm saying?
Like, you ain't got all day. Like, you got to process really quickly.
Yeah, so that was
I got something to say. GTD, stand up. I just don't get it, as if they can't see you making the way. City lights, what up? He's preparing the way. City lights, what up? How could you live for tomorrow if you ain't promised today?
The Bro Code TV show was created to amplify the voices of others and share courageous stories of community leaders, organizations, and businesses that are doing great things. Every Wednesday night at 7 p.m., you can catch Bro Troy, Bro Kirk, and Bro Smith for another courageous conversation. You can find those conversations on our YouTube channel at Bro Code TV Productions, and also our audio podcast channels, which are on Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts at The Bro Code Show. Tap in to the Bro Code experience.